Imagine that you knew how to attract success, wealth, happiness, and prosperity into your life. Would you be willing to let me tell you this secret? Would you use it? I'm happy to tell you this secret. Each of our situations is significantly influenced by our thinking. Thoughts range from easy things like the shopping list to love and happiness, which are two of the most important things in our lives. What we say, write, and believe becomes the very situations of our lives. This is why I respect Dr. Ernest Holmes's book. It is very important for the spiritual freedom of every man, woman, and child. It teaches us how to change the emotions of fear, anger, jealousy, and confusion into confidence, understanding, kindness, and safety, all without the need for preaching. With this book, you can go from chaos to peace. One of the most important spiritual thinkers of our time was Ernest Holmes. He was able to share hundreds of years of knowledge in a way that was current, useful, and realistic for living life to the best. The key to a full, rich, rewarding, and kind life is thought, which we do every day. You should take this book home, read it over and over, and follow the good advice in it. You will change because of how its ideas change you. Feel free to go. You deserve it. Different ways of thinking turn into different types of things. Thought is always making new things, and those things must be unique. Something must always give form to it, but that something is not a thing in and of itself, because the thought that gives form is made by the mind. First comes the mind, then the thought, and finally the form. Part 1. The world around you. How do you feel about yourself? You know, have you ever asked yourself the simplest question? What do you see in yourself? Is the answer no? If so, you should really think about your thoughts. A piece in the British medical magazine Practitioner specifically said that doctors should be careful about what they think of their patients, since there is strong proof that patients do react in some ways based on what the doctor thinks of them. If the doctor thinks that the patient isn't going to get better, it seems to show in the patient's mood, and the patient doesn't get better. If what other people think of us has any effect on our experience, imagine how much more powerful our own ideas are in terms of how they affect our thinking. We do what we think. Who would be surprised if we never get over pain, loss, and bad relationships if our thoughts are always about them? While we can't change what other people think of us, we can change how we think about ourselves. We don't have to always think about the best things that could happen to us when we think about ourselves. We already have enough problems in our lives without making them worse by thinking negatively. Before we can change other people, we need to change ourselves, but we need to be sure that this change is taking us in the right way. Identity. Knowing that the great I am is always there for you makes it easier to deal with it and become aware of the presence of spirit in you. This can be done by quietly pondering how spirit works in the world. You learn to carefully look past what you see and see through it to the unseen side of reality that changes all of your training and makes your life more like God's plan. If you have a deeper spiritual divide, you can get rid of problems and fix any bad habits. Say, I now seek health instead of sickness, wealth instead of poverty, and happiness instead of sorrow. By getting better at controlling the feeling of denial, whether it's pain or poverty, I'm testing how the law of mind works. Any thought that comes from fear or limitation disappears from my consciousness. I know that my word changes energy into constructive action and brings about health, harmony, happiness, and success. I know that there is something at the core of my being that is completely sure of itself, has complete security, and gives me full certainty that everything is okay. I maintain my status as a divine being right now. Science has recently made amazing progress, opening up many new areas of knowledge. Many things that seemed impossible before are now commonplace. The front page of every newspaper tells us about new and better ways to do things every day. We are no longer shocked when science makes a new discovery because we know it will always do what it sets out to do. We believe that science can solve any problem we have. Science really does give us a lot of answers, and it will keep giving us more. There is every reason for us to look to science for help in many areas. Science, on the other hand, will give us all the information we need. The important point that Dr. Gunnar Gunderson, who used to be head of the American Medical Association, made is that we can't live on science alone, and that cold, dry scientific methods don't please either the doctor or the patient. We need something else. Gunderson says that there needs to be hope, kindness, understanding, and love. There is more to life than just food. We need more than food to be happy, and more than pills to get better. Love and trust are that something more, and science doesn't give them to us. We are the only ones who can give love, and we can only do that if we learn to let go of all our fear, anger, hate, and bitterness. We have to believe that life shines through us in all its glory. It doesn't matter what science methods you use to fix someone if you don't feel love, faith, and the belief that their life is free. Domina, you know that every person is powered by a heavenly force that knows no lack, no limits, no fear, no disease, no worry, and no flaws. But because you are unique, you can put up a wall of bad thoughts between us and that beauty, the wall that keeps you from reaching the best. Good is made up of mental blocks that are tied together by fear, suspicion, and bad situations. Unfortunately, you don't have to go through poverty and pain in this life. Saying, "I know that within me there is a presence, a force and a law that irresistibly attracts to my experiences all that makes life worthwhile. I know that friendship, love, wealth, health, harmony and happiness are made for me. I know that nothing that is not good can come from me. Thus, the goodness I receive only comes full circle, satisfies the desire I feel for all things. I refuse to judge by appearances, whether mental or physical. Whatever they seem to indicate, there is always a higher force. I trust that force with the absolute certainty that it will never fail me. I repudiate all evil, free myself from the fear that accompanies it, and continually exercise a dominion that is rightfully mine. Take pleasure in life. A lot of people hide behind illness to avoid being involved in life. On the other hand, some people get all the signs of coronary heart disease when they can't reach their goals, even if a full medical test doesn't show that the person has that sickness. The way we all sometimes avoid doing what we want to do is a well-known one that shows up in different ways. During these kinds of scenarios, it helps to remember what life is all about. To begin, life is a creative process that is always going on. When something stops doing things, it becomes stagnant and has a lot less energy. We should always attempt to get deeper into the core of life, never less deeply. When we take our attention off of what we should be doing, we miss out on a fuller experience of the life that lives inside us. There's no need to think that this means we should always be brave and do bad things. This really means that we need to change how we do those things so that we don't find them upsetting. If we let ourselves think about some parts of what is given to us as a pointless task and want to give up on it, we will miss out on a fuller experience of the life that lives inside us. This is not good. Nothing is separate from you. You are one with the light that will never end. The spirit inside you benefits everyone it comes in contact with, heals everything it touches, and makes everyone happy. Because of this, you are a blessing to yourself, to everyone else, and to this day. Say, I discover the perfection that is in me. In its fullness I reveal the kingdom that dwells in me. I observe the universe of my life, knowing that the spirit in me makes my course straight and easy to chart. I know that there is nothing in me that can in any way hinder or detract from the divine circuit of life and love, which is God. My word dissolves all negative thoughts and impulses that could overshadow my perfection. Wisdom shines in my thoughts and in my deeds. Life brings harmony to my body so that it is revitalized, and its perfection is manifested in every cell, every organ, and every function. Love brings harmony to my mind so that joy sings in my heart. I am in complete unity with good, safe, free. Today, it's possible to get insurance to cover almost any situation and get reimbursed for any possible harm. We want to protect ourselves from any loss, which is why insurance is a big business today. Most of the time, the fees we pay for that security are a daily drain on our finances, but we see it as money well spent. People like us feel safe knowing that our insurance policy will cover any costs that come up after we lose something. But the insurance won't help us if we don't have an accident. What a great idea it would be to have insurance to protect us in case something goes wrong. We can get this kind of protection to a great extent, and the fee is not too high. As far as it goes, it's not even about money. There are some things that make insurance free, but the insurance itself is free. To pay for it, we need to have the time and effort to keep our ideas and feelings in check. Even if we have free insurance that promises us good health, we need to remember that being healthy is our natural state and stop calling it sickness with our fears and stress. The same is true for our relationships and business. If we stop holding on to their opposites physically and mentally, we can make sure they are always healthy. It's never too late to get free protection and safety for yourself. Instead of saying, "That which I feared most has fallen upon me," like Job did, let go of your fears and learn that God's mind guides everything you do. Make the way you're going a path of joy, happiness, and safety. Remember that God is in charge of your life at all times, and if you let Him, He will lead you safely through everything. Say this: I know that divine intelligence now helps me keep my thoughts in check and gives me faith that only good things will happen to me. God moves through me, through everything I do, and through everything that happens to me. I know that the power of the living Spirit makes the way I walk smooth today and every day. Divine wisdom is always working on my mind, telling me what I should do, giving me good advice, and leading me slowly but surely to wealth, happiness, and good health. God's love always keeps me safe. God has my back. These feelings of worry and unease have now gone away. I only let good things in and out of myself. This is what I want to happen. I believe this to be my experience. Mental capacity. Mental capacity seems to be pretty good in most of us, but a lot of people think it gets worse with age, which is funny. Research by the Office of Naval Research showed that our minds will almost certainly be sharper at 50 than they were at 20. This is great news for people in their 20s, of course. No matter what, we don't lose our minds or just let it be. We should keep it in a place in our mind that is easy to get to. It looks like the only thing that can stop us from thinking is the thought that we are losing our minds. The trap, though, is thinking that our minds are already fully formed. Have we ever made all of their parts move? Have we ever used all of our brain's billions of nerve cells? We all like to believe that we think, but are our thoughts really just a turntable record that plays over and over again? A tune can't be played over and over again just because we know it. It's kind of like this problem affects everyone, but we can also learn new things and process new thoughts. There is always a time to start using our skills. It's like getting better. Like how the more we use something, the longer we can keep using it, the more we think, the longer we can keep thinking. So, think, and for the rest of your days, keep thinking better and better. Inspiration. According to the Apostle John, Jesus said, "God is spirit, and those who praise Him must praise Him in spirit and in truth." You and this spirit are one, and you can't be split up. Your thought is God acting through your word, so it has power. Say now, I clear my vision and clean my thought so that it becomes a mirror that reflects inspiration directly from the highest point in the middle of my own being. And I do this through quiet thought, which doesn't take a lot of work. Instead, I've learned to fast from all doubt and fill myself up with spiritual understanding statements. I am aware that I must not give up in the face of the union that is happening all around me. I walk in the light of God's love today. He leads me, and my leadership grows. Inside me, there is an idea that guides every action and thought with certainty and confidence. I'm at peace because I know that the key to the kingdom of God, the key that opens the wealth house, is in my pocket. Today I enter it. I enter the kingdom of God and look around. Protect this area of God's creation. There are many things to be careful of in life, but now we are told that one of the most important is how other people's thoughts and feelings can spread. A piece in the Journal of the American Medical Association said that illness and mental health are like a smile or measles. They can spread quickly. Of course, we can't ignore what this idea means for all of us. Of course, the word contagious can mean more than one thing. We can spread happiness or sadness, safety or fear, stability or instability in other people. If we let someone else's fears infect us, we can then pass those worries on to other people. It's crazy to think about how big this kind of chain reaction could get. We can be hopeful, though, because good things can spread in the same way that bad things can, no matter how common someone's negative thoughts are. It's up to each of us to decide how much resistance we want to feel inside. In order to let ourselves get sick, we need to improve our mental and emotional stability to the point where we can stop ourselves from adopting negative thoughts that throw our bodies out of balance and leave us open to major health problems. On the other hand, taking on good traits from other people can improve our health and happiness. It's important to remember that you are the only one who can decide what ideas you can accept and how much you can hold on to them. Stay away from negative thoughts and helpful ideas. You can't feel all the joy in life if you associate with anything other than joy. What you see in your thoughts attracts you, as do people, places and things that look like those pictures. When you realize this, you'll know that you have to change the basic structure of your thoughts in order to change bad things that happen or protect yourself from them. That means you have to be very careful about what you let into your mind or what you let come from bad situations in the past. Anytime you have a thought that isn't good for you, you should get rid of it right away and replace it with an idea that is good for you in every way. Say, I know that you are a son or daughter of the heights. I am the mind and perfection behind everything. As thought itself is to become outside of the person, attracting situations that are just right for them. I declare that my thoughts are led by God, that I only hold positive thoughts, and that I reject all other thoughts. I know that at the center of my being is a principle of beauty, an unseen force that constantly flows out of me and through me in every way my life goes. Today and always, behave well. We all expect others to behave well, and we keep telling our kids how important it is. We all like to think that we act well, but is that really the case, or are we lies? It may look like we act well on the outside, but the behavior that really matters is not seen. No matter how well behaved our thoughts are, they are probably much more naughty than they seem. A member of the American College of Physicians named Dwight L. Wilbur, MD, says that 1/3 to 2/3 of the people who go to the doctor don't have a clear-cut illness. This doesn't mean they aren't sick. It just means their way of thinking is making their sickness worse. What are we doing to ourselves when we let these thoughts happen? This is a question that keeps coming up. A lot of the time, the solution does more harm than good. Our way of thinking not only hurts our bodies, but it also makes everything we do worse. A lot of the time we worry about different kinds of problems, but not often do we look for the ideas that made those problems happen. We will keep coming up with the same boring ideas, and our problems will not be solved as long as we don't get to work and control our thinking. It is simply a matter of thinking more about what we want than what we don't want to do, to start teaching our ideas the basics of good behavior at any time. The things we do in life are a result of the thoughts we have. So all we need is for our thoughts to act in the right way. Good direction. Even though it might not seem like it, good is at the heart of everything. You must recognize its presence, for there is only one spirit, and it lives in you and everything else. You can find the spirit in people, places and things no matter where you go. There is one spirit that shows up in and through everything, including you. This spirit automatically balances the parts of the whole, so you can trust that the spirit inside you leads the way. There is something real, certain and exact in your faith, like the rules of math or the laws of life. When your thoughts and deeds are in sync with your vital energy, they are strong. Say, I know that the spirit that lives inside me goes before me and makes the path that my experiences take perfect, easy, happy, and smooth. I have nothing that can get in the way of the holy connections of life, health, and beauty. Any negative thoughts or urges that leave a shadow of error over the edges of my experience are wiped out by my positive world. Nothing else makes me feel like myself but the living spirit, which is all energy, presence, and life. With that, I raise my cup, knowing that the holy rain will fill it all the way to the top. The tools we need to enjoy life to the fullest. It looks like each of us needs to be doing something artistic all the time. We can do things to pass the time and keep our minds busy, but in the long run, we won't get the pleasure that comes from creating something meaningful. In the same vein, Dr. Eleanor Chrissy of Cornell University pushed the idea that people who are getting close to retirement should have built up both internal and external resources they can use. She thinks that being artistic is important and that people should do it just because it makes them happy. Some people think that the need and wish to be artistic is something that everyone is born with. Our lives can feel empty if we don't notice it or do something about it. It turns out that everyone needs to be creative. Even if it's just mud pies, kids like to make things. Teenagers, adults, and the old need to find positive ways to show themselves if they want to find joy in life. People need to find new ways to be creative, as evidenced by the recent huge success of do-it-yourself. It could be because a lot of people make a living doing boring tasks that don't let them show who they are. No matter what age, some of us need to find ways to share the artistic urge that lives inside us so that we can enjoy life more. You can start at any time. Good thing to do. A great action is one in which all of your good intentions are carried out to the fullest extent possible. That means you understand what to think, how to act, and how to move forward. You know for sure that if your thoughts are in line with God's nature, then your deeds will support God's law. Because of this, nothing inside or outside of you can stop you from having creative thoughts. You have the power, and when you use it, you bring about unity, peace, happiness, and success. Say, I know that in the consciousness of the divine nature is the food that will meet all of my physical, mental, and spiritual needs, and I accept that food with the utmost gratitude. Thank you that this is the way of life that meets my needs through the gates of my inner being. Also, thank you that I understand how to use this perfect rule. At the very core of my being, I go to this big source of food to get whatever I need for my mind or body, and I fill myself with the knowledge that what I want is real. I let that knowledge run through my thoughts and actions because I know it will make my world more peaceful, harmonious, and organized. Now I have a renewed faith in the perfect rule and the infinite resources of God. Everything I do from now on is only right. Recordings in the mind. It gets old to hear the same tape over and over. Of course, it's simple to end the recording and return to peace. But what about our thoughts? Those ideas that keep going back and forth in our minds. We keep having the same thoughts over and over again, and it seems like there is no end in sight. The song we hear is also not something we like. Some people say that the nervous thought pattern seems to happen over and over again. Most of the time, these anxious plans are fueled by anger, fear, anxiety, and guilt. If there is such a thing as endless motion, it is when we get stuck in the Ferris wheel of our negative thinking. We often lean back in our cars and listen to the same songs for hours on end, which makes us tired. Music. There are many nice and helpful mental records out there, but it might take some time to find them. Records of hate must be changed to records of love, records of fear to records of trust, records of worry to records of faith, and records of guilt to records of forgiveness. We'll figure out that we can change them automatically and put on a better one after some time. Get rid of your fear. To not be afraid in your heart means to believe in the good, the long-lasting, and the true. There is only one thing to fear, not the person who attacks you or the chaos around you. The only thing to fear is not trusting that good will happen, things that should worry you. Because you have spiritual sight, you know that only good lasts and everything else changes. You know that justice will finally get rid of everything that stands in its way. All the bad guys can't stand up to the power of the Spirit. Therefore, you should not be scared. When you are free of both fear and hate, you will understand how life is won. Say, I know that fear is not from God, because it goes against God's presence, rejects infinite love, and rejects infinite good. Being afraid of something, someone, or somewhere is not really there. It's just a lie I've been telling myself for so long that it seems real. Today I give up all fear and all hateful thoughts. I become one with Spirit consciously, and I accept that good is the only thing that is good. As the day starts, I'm filled with joy. I remember the things I did yesterday without feeling bad about them, and I look forward to tomorrow with confidence, because today my heart is free of all fear. No matter what, we are all bound by the rules of freedom. Freedom forces us to do things, but because it is freedom, it also lets us believe all the outside pressures that limit us. It also lets us break them down and get rid of them in the same way. That we attract what we think about is not enough. We also have to say that we become what we think about and attract that. We make things grow by following the law of thought that is built into us. To go from being weak to being strong, from not knowing to knowing, and from lack to having plenty. A good thought has so much power that it can erase anything that doesn't look like it. Part 2 is about how you live your life. We all choose our own ways to live. You have to do it yourself. People can tell you what to do and how to do it, and they can give you tips all the time. On top of that, you keep telling yourself things based on your past achievements and mistakes. Finally, though, everything we've become is a mix of our own thoughts and feelings mixed with our physical and emotional selves. You are who you are. The personal goals you have set for yourself have made you who you are and will make you become. Sometimes you might have been driving yourself in the wrong way without even realizing it. When you learn how the mind makes things, you'll see life in a whole new way. You can only value life and your events as the best things in the world if you know they are the best, just the way they are. Inner space. The idea of sending probes into space has caught the attention of a whole country. In a piece about the space age, the author said that the main reason for the race to space is people's natural desire to learn more about their surroundings. Space is hard to deal with just because it's there, like Mount Everest. It's cool to think about the infinite space around us, But what's even more amazing is the infinite space inside us that we don't even know about. Infinite space is something that can be studied, but why not go even further and explore our own thoughts too? One of the most mysterious things about us is that we can think, which is what lets us explore space. The brain has been the subject of a lot of study, but it is only the tool of thought. Although not much is known about thought, the thing that makes us human and inspires poems, art and building feats, as well as love and respect, it is still the most important thing we have. Researchers will eventually pay more attention to the vague and fuzzy thing that is our mind. For now, though, we can look into inner space on our own. The only tool we need to become a research scientist is our thinking, and the findings of our studies can have real-world effects. Everything in nature, including divine power, is made up of one life that organizes everything else. It is a presence and a rule of existence. There are so many thoughts in our minds that go against this fact that the truth has to wait until we can see it. You shouldn't hide in negative thoughts. Instead, you should become aware of the holy presence and power of the fact that truth, love, and reason are all one. Let your mind heal itself with peace and joy, and learn about the power of the Spirit that you can't see that is working in and through you right now. Hold on to this information with all your might. Tell, I know that I am now a perfect being living today in perfect conditions, aware that only Spirit is real. Some people have talked a lot about mental health in the past few years. Something that we all want seems to exist, but it's not clear what it is or what we can do to make it happen. I liked the short quote by Dr. Bollbauer, who is the head of health education for the American Medical Association. He said that mental health is connected to how we relate to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. If I remember correctly, this must sound very strangely familiar. People used to say that the point of faith was to help people figure out how they should relate to themselves, their friends, the world they live in, and their God or Creator. This fourth point is something that modern mental health services seem to miss. But doesn't it stand to reason that what we think about God and our relationship with Him could affect the success or failure of a mental health program for one person or for a whole society? People from both the scientific and religious communities have said many times that our deepest beliefs guide our thoughts and actions, and that it is in our nature to have religious beliefs, whether they are good or bad for our health. Our relationship with the Creator is something that each of us needs to figure out for ourselves in a smart and healthy way. Now, any issues that might come up in the other areas that the mental health services are interested in will automatically be fixed. The perfect. When you consciously climb to the top of a peak and raise your ideas above the chaos of everything that doesn't seem to go together, you become one with the order of the spiritual cause behind everything. When it comes to psychic medicine or any other type of mental health care, there is always the thought that there is a perfect, secret order behind everything. It's not a dull statement to say that holy beauty is in everything and shows itself in different ways through everything. I believe in the beauty of the divine plan with all my heart. I let its energy flow through me as I become aware of its truth. I claim it softly and show its love. There is a connection between me and life. I believe in its power with the faith of a child and let its actions guide my daily life. Today, I say that Spirit is a part of who I am, how I interact with others, and how I interact with the world around me. Trouble. It looks like everyone has had some kind of trouble at some point. Things that go wrong that we don't like and wish were different. But getting rid of them brings up an interesting question. How much of what we want to be a part of have we not made ourselves? A study of parent-child groups by the University Psychological Clinic at the University of Illinois showed that a lot of the problems parents have with their kids are caused by problems they are having with themselves. To put it another way, the parents made the problems they know how to fix. It's not like most of the problems we face in life just happen to us. We either brought them into the world without realizing it, or have drawn them with the way we think, feel, or act. We can also get rid of them in the same way. No matter what problems we're having, the first thing we need to do is figure out what we think. What we think determines how we feel and what we do. Success. Nothing succeeds like success is an old saying in the US that everyone knows. We might want to add the less clear idea that we are always successful to this one. Do you know what success means? It could be thought of as the pleasure, completion, or success of the thing that is most important to us. Take a moment to think about people who have been great their whole lives. They have found joy, happiness, and good health, and they still do. Others were also successful, but they never had any money. Their health has always been bad, their family life was terrible, and everything is still a disaster. They have all been through what they always thought would happen to them. Look at your own life. Do you have everything you want, or do you only have what you hope to have? There's a big difference. We should be more careful about what we choose to be good at, since we are always successful. Either we get what we want, or we don't get what we want. And this begs the question, do we spend more time thinking about what we want, or what we don't want? This is the secret to why some people seem to get all the good things in life, while others seem to have missed that good stuff. Though it seems like the only way to get your fair share of good things in life is to mentally accept them when they come your way, instead of refusing them. You can't have what you don't want. Words have power. How we think affects what we attract or push away. You can connect with lack or plenty, with friendship and love, or with not caring. The sum of your states of awareness is what you can't help but attract into your reality. This law of attraction and rejection works on its own, just like the law of reflection, which says that what you see in the mirror is the same as what you are. So, we need to be very careful to keep our thoughts safe. We can do this by only letting good things into our minds and pushing away any thought that says they aren't good. Say this: I know that accepting only the good in my experience gets rid of any doubt in my mind, gets rid of fear, and clears the way for the perfect, true, and lasting to come true. I have full faith that all the good ideas that are coming to me will come true, because I believe they will. I act always trusting in the law of mind. So I know that my words won't come back to me empty. I accept these words and rejoice in them. I hope that all of my ideas will come true. Of the ever-growing good I now harbor, well-calculated ideas will be fully and satisfactorily fulfilled. When we come into this world, we have more intelligence and wisdom than we will ever admit to having. The body's wisdom, to keep it working normally and keep fixing itself, will always defy our knowledge. Even more incomprehensible is the mind, the thought processes that start out at a more or less instinctive level, but seem to have no limits to their growth. Some say that the mind is like a huge computer, and they may be right in many ways, but computers need an operator to make them work. This makes it seem like there is something in us that goes beyond the brain's billions of nerves. Computers always give us answers based on the facts, figures, and information we give them. Whether we like the answers or not, they have nothing to do with our question. Everything we do, feel, and have relationships is a result of the thoughts and information we put into our minds. This includes not only our conscious thoughts, but also our large memory store, where we spend years storing things that plays a central role in all outcomes. When we don't like what happens to us, it's easy to blame outside forces and forget that our minds can only respond to the information we give them. However, we can always start to change our experiences by feeding our minds with new information that will give them better and more useful responses. Affirmation. By thinking positively, you can clear your mind of negative thoughts, fears, and doubts. You need to do this if you want to be aware of God's presence, peace, and harmony dwelling in and around you. All the good you desire is waiting for you to accept it, but you will not be able to experience it as long as you continue to deny it. The key to having the right life and the right ideas is to constantly follow a positive thought pattern that affirms that only God's good is coming into your life. Say, God is all power, all presence, and all peace. I now free myself from all fear, doubt, and confusion, and direct my attention and thoughts toward the belief that only good is part of my experience. I have faith that God is perfect and that He could desire nothing but perfection for all His creation. Peace and happiness, joy and contentment accompany me always. God's good works surround me everywhere and flow through everything I experience. With patience, I push aside all doubts and fears that creep into my mind and resolutely accept only the wonderful things of God's kingdom. Here and now, God is all power there is, all presence there is, and all life, and only what conforms to God's nature will enter my life. Unhappiness is a habit, as much as we may not like to admit it. Much of the unhappiness we encounter in our daily lives is of our own making. There seems to be a perverse streak in us that especially enjoys wallowing in discouragement, commenting on problems, and feeling sorry for oneself. Stop to listen to much of your conversations and pay special attention to what others are talking about. What you will hear will surprise you. It is all problems, headaches, suffering, with only a few cheerful and happy expressions of enthusiasm for life. No one has ever achieved mental or physical fulfillment by dwelling on the negative aspects of life. As much as we seem to enjoy self-indulgence, we are blindfolding ourselves to the true joy of living. Perhaps what is happening is that we have never believed that a better life is possible. With a little effort, we can untangle the tangle of knots in our ideas. Even if we are skeptical about what we will find, we can always turn around and go in another direction, just to test the results of following a different way of thinking. It is true that unpleasant things will happen to us during the day, but favorable things and pleasant encounters also await us as the day progresses. And at the end of the day, let our thoughts dwell on pleasant things. We may discover a new joy in life, happiness instead of bliss. You are part of the universal mind. You are one with the universal substance. You live, move, and receive your being in pure spirit. All the abundance, power, and harmony of that spirit dwells in the center of your being. Experience its goodness as you accept it, feel it, and believe in it. As you enter into life and feel the divine presence in all things, you will hear more and more of that of joy ringing in the center of your being. You need only be still and listen to it, for it is always there. Say, knowing that the divine presence is at all times closer to me than my own breath. I have nothing to fear. I feel its loving protection all around me. I know that the song of joy, love, and peace is always playing its hymn of wonder and beauty in the center of my being. And so I clear my mind of all unhappy and negative ideas. I direct my thoughts toward the sun of life, toward brightness and laughter, toward the joyful presence of the shining spirit. I lay aside all anxiety, all strife, and allow divine love to interfere through me in my affairs. I joyfully accept greater abundance, success, and deeper peace. Joy springs from within my mind, and life sings its song of ecstasy in my heart. In some ways, the most important diet is our thoughts. It seems like most people in our society are very interested in some kind of diet. There is the age-old question of what to eat and what not to eat. We don't really do much with our diets either, but the subject can be used for more than one conversation. This makes us wonder what kind of food we are feeding our minds. Besides worrying about what kind of food we should be feeding our stomachs, we constantly feed our minds all kinds of ideas without considering their value. Sometimes the ideas we feed them are pleasant, easy to digest, and very helpful, but other times we have mental indigestion. We must always bear in mind that it is the ideas we absorb mentally that control the nature of our experiences. If our mental diet is basically composed of ideas of failure, failure becomes the main body of our experiences. On the other hand, a constant supply of ideas of success will make everything in our lives vital and prosperous. The best way to change all those unwanted feelings is to change our mental diet. We have to stop consuming ideas of what we don't want and replace them with ideas of what we do want. We are the best doctor to prescribe the prescription to make the substitution, but we must also be good patients and take the medicine we have prescribed for ourselves. It will take some time to notice the effects, but there is no doubt that an improvement awaits us. Spiritual food, the spirit, fills all space and animates all forms. So the spirit is the real actor in everything, but the spirit can only help you by acting through you. And this simply means that God can only give you what you accept. When you penetrate daily into your divine inheritance with thought and heart, you penetrate into the realm of absolute causality. Be absolutely certain that from the secret place that the Supreme occupies in you, the objective manifestation of all your legitimate desires will be projected. You truly accept abundance. It is true that your thought animates your experiences with the idea of fullness. You truly affirm that the divine substance is ever flowing into you to nourish you. Say today, I praise abundance in all things. I praise everything with the idea of abundance. I remember only the good. I hope for a greater good. I experience goodness. I become aware that spirit is at work everywhere. I give thanks because the good action of spirit flows more and more into my experience. There is something within me that sees, knows, and understands this truth, and accepts it fully. There is enough goodness in circulation, so I do not deprive myself of that goodness or deprive others, but proclaim again and again that abundance flows in all things, in the form of nourishment. I now accept for myself all that I need to make my life a joyful experience. Indoor weather, except for the subject of our feelings, weather is probably one of the most talked about subjects, and when we talk about the weather, we are indirectly telling others how we feel. Some people love the heat, while there are others who shy away from it. Some people are depressed by the cold, while others are invigorated by it. Even though we can accommodate all the inclement weather through clothing, heating and cooling, they still provoke favorable or unfavorable reactions in us. So if we think about it coldly, what really concerns us is our indoor climate. We tend to forget all too often that climate, whether we like it or not, is vital to making this planet a livable place. In fact, it was thanks to climatic changes that life was able to begin. If we think of the Earth as a living, breathing organism, the great masses of air that circulate through it, that is fed by the wonder of the circulatory system, formed by the water that evaporates from the seas and then goes into the parched soil, that is constantly regenerating itself through an infinite process of destruction and reconstruction, of a structural system through the decomposition of rocks that become soil or sand, and then reform new rocks, which avoids falling into paralysis with the infinite sequence of seasons. If we think of the Earth in this way, then we will recognize that all seasons are necessary. It is not the weather that should concern us, but the fact of allowing ourselves to be affected by those same climatic changes that make it possible for us to live on Earth. Peace must exist, a fundamental harmony at the center of all things, or the universe itself would be in chaos. This is something you already know and believe. Now you just have to act accordingly. From now on, you will not only believe it, you will behave as if it were true, because it is true. Peace is at the core of your being. a peace that can be felt both during the day and in the cool of the evening. When work is done, the first stars begin to shine in a twilight sky. Harmony floats silently over the earth, tenderly like a mother watching over her child. Say, in the peace that gently rocks me, I find strength and protection against all fear or anxiety, in the peace of God, in which I feel the love of the Holy Presence. I am aware of that love, of the protection it offers me, that all feelings of fear vanish in me like the mist with the light of dawn. I see the good that is in all things. I see God personified in all men, life manifesting itself in all that happens. The Spirit is nothing separate from people and the things that happen to them. I see how it unites everything to itself, animating all things with the energy of its own being, creating everything by its divine imagination, enveloping everything in its peace and calm. I form a unity with this deep and abiding peace. I know that all is goodness. Hope always accelerates progress. Thinking of good things to come helps to dispel the burden of distrust we carry with us. We have to learn to improve our awareness. It is not true that nothing is too good to be true. God's perfection is already an omnipresent reality, even if we do not yet perceive it. We will only receive as much good as we know how to accept. If we have condemned any organ or any function of our body, we should stop doing so. We must stop condemning. Chapter 3. Your mental and spiritual health. Health has many different aspects, and you, like everyone else, worry about each of them from time to time. Health is not something you can get in exchange for something, nor is it something you can buy. But that doesn't mean there aren't things that can help you. There is one thing to remember. Life is the dynamic energy that animates us. It is this energy that continually seeks to flow and express itself through you. No one can explain what it is or how it works, but there is no doubt of its existence, because if it did not, you would not exist. There are many ways to enhance or limit its action. The least recognized, though the most vital, is the power of thought. In your mind resides to a great extent the power to deny or accept, as well as to utilize the flow of the dynamic life energy that first and foremost created you. Your welcome sign: we all like to think we are nice. We like to meet new people and our friends. They are always welcome in our home. We like new experiences, and in general, we would like life to always be a new experience. But how big is the welcome sign over our head? We feel that there are too many unwanted guests in our life, not realizing that we have been blindly handing out invitations in all directions. The truth is that consciously or unconsciously, we have invited many of our pains and illnesses. The person who is happy, joyful, and enjoys life is usually disease-free. The opposite type of person is the one who has the most complaints about his or her physical health. If you are grumpy, disagreeable, irritable, resentful, and fearful, don't these welcome signs invite equally irritating factors that contribute to your physical discomfort? We are faced with the question of whether or not we can afford to think as we think. We often complain that we have caught this or that disease without realizing that we are the ones who have gone out looking for it, unfurling the wrong welcome sign. Our ideas are like the bait we put in a trap. We can catch almost any prey we want just by changing the type of bait. What kind of bait do you use? What kind of experiences do you welcome into your life? If you don't like the kind of situations that make up your experience, change the sign that presides over the door of your thoughts. Stop sending dangerous invitations. You have the ability and the right to discriminate in choosing the life you want to live. Accept only the good. The good you believe in can triumph over all the evil you have experienced. You are silently associated with infinity, and this association has never and will never dissolve. You must trust implicitly in your own capacities, conscious that it is part of the very nature of thought to externalize itself to influence your health and your other affairs. Conscious that the thinker is you, resolutely. Turn your back upon all those of lack, desire, or limitation, and declare that the perfect law of God operates in you, by you, and through you. Say, I have absolute confidence in my knowledge and understanding of the law of mind. Not only do I know what the law is, but I also know how to make use of it. With this knowledge and with confidence in my ability to use the law daily and for specific purposes, I gradually raise an unshakable faith in both the law and the possibility of demonstrating it. So today I declare that my thoughts will be only affirmative, positive, and constructive. Today I believe that beneath me are infinite arms, and I rest in the divine confidence and security they provide. I know that not only my mind and body are well, but also all my other affairs. How old are you? Birthdays always come, and as the years go by, it seems to do so more often. But regardless of what the calendar says, the saying that you are only as young as you feel is still very true. And this begs the question of what it is that determines how we feel, what it is that instills in us a sense of vitality, well-being, and continued enjoyment of life. Milton Golin, in an article for the Bulletin of the American Medical Association, presented the results of a study on a population of elderly people. There he pointed out that there are powerful reasons to believe that continued vitality and growth depend to a large extent on having a positive motive for living. Without such a motive, a 35-year-old may be old, while an older person who does have a motive for living may be young. Clearly, life is always something active, creative, and constructive. We are part of that life and not something separate from it, so it behooves us to be active as well. We need to have something to be active in, some vital, positive, and productive interest. In other words, we need to arm ourselves with a reason to go on living. It often seems to us that we have reached the end of our rope. But there is more rope at our disposal. If we open our minds and start to think a little, some people will find their life's interest in building bridges, others in raising geraniums or caring for grandchildren, while others may offer younger people the wisdom they have gained in maturity to deal with life's problems. Regardless of the date on the calendar, there is always a reason to be alive, a positive reason. You can find it too, and you will find it if you stop stopping life from flowing through you. Renew your body in each and every part. It is a manifestation of spirit. Its perfect design in the mind of God can suffer no deterioration. At this instant, the divine vitality constantly flowing through you takes the form of perfect and complete cells. Each and every cell of your body is healthy and vigorous, full of your life and vitality, energy and purity. Your body, the spirit that has taken form, knows no time, knows no limits, only knows how to express itself totally and completely, instantaneously. Say, I recognize that the spirit is in me and that it is what I am. I let that recognition of the divinity that dwells in me flow throughout my consciousness. I let it reach the depths of my being. I rejoice in my divinity. I become vigorous, robust, and mentally creative. I renew my strength with God's perfection and good deeds. My body is healthy and able. God's life is my life. God's strength is my strength. God's mind is my mind. Every breath I take fills me with perfection and vitality and renews every cell of my body. I was born in the Spirit and of the Spirit, and I am the Spirit that at this instant manifests itself. Healthy convictions. Medical researchers have long insisted on the relationship between stress and bodily ailments. Stress, which encompasses a wide variety of mental and emotional reactions to life situations, can be a conditioning or causative factor in many of our illnesses. But it is often difficult for us to identify the source of stress. Perhaps it is a wolf in sheep's clothing. That is what doctors and religious authorities are discovering. Religion has long been suspected of being a source of energy and refuge, providing spiritual peace. But often the opposite is also true. It cannot be said that religious beliefs are good or bad for people. Rather, it is people's reactions to religious beliefs that are good or bad. Religion should provide us with a healthy and joyful attitude towards life. It should also lay the foundation for a healthy relationship with ourselves, with other human beings, and with the Creator. When it does not provide us with a sense of well-being, but rather inspires fear, apprehension, and anxiety, then the church becomes a source of stress. Whatever one's religious convictions may be, it is worth examining them carefully. Do they bring us joy and well-being, or do they corrode our vitality? We must decide for ourselves which beliefs meet our needs and are good for us, and not let others or family tradition determine this. Everyone must live his or her own life. Fundamentally, religion is the personal, intimate and intense relationship between us and that force greater than ourselves. And the channel of communication is our thoughts. Understand that the Spirit of God is an undivided and indivisible totality. He fills all time with His presence and infiltrates space with the activity of His thought. It is up to you not so much to find God as to become aware of God's presence and to understand that such a presence always accompanies you. Nothing can be closer to you than that which constitutes the very essence of your being. The search for God in your exterior culminates in the greatest of discoveries. God is at the center of your being. Life springs from you. Say, I know that my search is over. I have become aware of the presence of Spirit. I have discovered the greater reality. I have awakened to realize that presence. There is but one life. Today I see it reflected in every form, behind every expression, moving with every act. I know that the divine presence is everywhere. I salute the good in all things. I recognize God, life, responding to me from every person I meet, in every event through which it transpires, in every circumstance that arises in my experience. I feel the warmth of the divine presence that always pushes me, that always springs from me, the source of eternal being, present yesterday, today, tomorrow, and always. Help yourself. After attending a meeting of medical evangelists, a journalist began his article with a statement about how the physician who today undervalues the role of prayer in the treatment of disease will soon be as old-fashioned as the physician who 100 years ago laughed at the use of ether. Although it will still be some time before the medical profession as a whole accepts and recognizes the usefulness of prayer in the treatment of physical illness. There are many individual physicians who perceive the need for positive prayers to regain and maintain good health. This trend is not particularly pleasing to patients. They would prefer that the doctor just give them a pill to fix everything that is wrong with them, and that would be the end of the matter. That would be the easy way out, but it doesn't always work. For a doctor to tell his patients that they have to change the way they think, that they have to start thinking positively and not negatively, implies that they have to learn to think and pray in a coherent and constructive way. Prayer is, in a sense, a type of thinking. It could be said that any thought is, in a sense, a prayer, a creative factor that is part of our experience. From this point of view, it is possible to see that our prayers, or our thoughts, are directly responsible for our good or bad health. What are you doing through your thinking to facilitate or hinder the enjoyment of good health and wholeness? Despite all the physical deficiencies your body may experience, there is in God's mind a scheme of perfection for it. Were it not for that, it would never have been created, nor would it be maintained or renewed. Your life belongs to God. Your health is an expression of the perfection of the indwelling Spirit. Recognizing that there is a river of life within you, flowing from the eternal source of life, you cannot help but open your mind and accept the full influx of its life-creating energy. Say, I now affirm that the living spirit animates every organ, every action, and every function of my body. There is a perfect mind directing my thoughts, a complete wholeness sustaining my being, a divine influx coursing through me day and night. I am aware that the divine life flowing within me renews every cell of my body in the image of its own perfection. I give thanks for this silent energy that sustains me, and I say to my own you must believe in that energy, you must accept it, you must let it flow through you, because you are one with it. There is no other energy, no other presence, no other life. Therefore, all the energy that exists, all the presence that exists, and all the life that exists is holding you right now and will continue to hold you. Grandmother's sayings. There are many sayings that could be called grandmother sayings. They are familiar sayings that convey apparent wisdom that may or may not contain some truth. However, there is always the possibility that we laugh at them because we don't want to face the truth they contain. One such saying refers to the idea that a pregnant woman should be free of all anxiety. Lately, this saying is considered to be nothing more than a kind and respectful gesture towards the state of the mother-to-be. Surprisingly, the pendulum has swung back, and the idea that it is necessary to keep the mother free of all caution has been reaffirmed. The latest medical research shows that, to a large extent, for a child to be born normal, it is necessary for the mother to be stress-free during pregnancy. If stress, worry, and anxiety can influence the normality of a fetus, it seems logical to think that these mental states also affect those of us who have already been born. Of course, this is well known in psychosomatic medicine, and many of us are already aware of the consequences that these destructive attitudes can have on our health. In everyday life, it is normal to encounter stress, pressure, and anxiety. If this were not the case, we would not be alive. We would be no more than a mere accident. What we need to watch out for is the extent to which we allow ourselves to become entangled in these destructive attitudes that have such dire consequences. It is not that we do not know how our ideas influence our health, but that we do not want to take the trouble to change our ideas. Inner energy. You may have been using your mental energy to produce with it those very limitations you wish to escape from. When you finally realize that, in your ignorance, you may have been doing just that, you should not blame yourself or others. Therefore, knowing that you are a child of God, as we all are, you must begin to express your divine heritage. When your thinking is structured according to the supreme concept of spiritual perfection, your life will become a reflection of that same thinking. Say, today, with the awareness that my life is actually a reflection of what I think, I let the spirit within me guide and direct my thoughts and emotions. The divine influx refreshes me daily, and I feel saturated with the very essence of life. I feel it flowing in me and through me. I now know that I am only a perfect instrument of the divine symphony of life, and I am in tune with its perfection and harmony. My body is an instrument with which life plays its perfect harmony. I seek no other powers, for there is only one power, the same power I am willing to use. The power that I now know is eternal and has always been at the center of my life. I know that this power heals all, overcomes every obstacle, and frees me from all falsehood. And so be it. Live longer. It has long been thought that the longer we retain energy and capabilities, the longer we live. Specifically, we are referring to brain activity. The type of activity we shy away from the most. It has been said that intellectual activity shortens a person's life. Now it seems that the opposite is true. A Swedish researcher has shown that those who engage in intellectual activities live longer than others. This does not mean that less is demanded of the body, but that brain work acts as a tonic and source of vitality for the whole organism. In fact, other reports show that, as far as the heart is concerned, The load is the same when physical work is performed as when the work is mental. One possible explanation is based on the fact that, in some way, all bodily activity is influenced or controlled by what we think. If we become mentally lazy, the body will do the same. If we continually feel upset or fearful, the body will begin to malfunction. If, on the other hand, our ideas are actively constructive, the body responds in the same way. It does not matter to what extent others think we are active, because we will remain mentally lazy if we do not always use our full mental capacity and constantly strive to develop it. It is a personal equation. It demands that we always give the best of ourselves, and the best of us knows no limits, even if we don't realize it and rarely use it. So start thinking and you will live more. Inheritance. The kingdom of God is at your fingertips. The wealth, power, and glory of His kingdom belong to you today. You do not rob others when you enter the fullness of the kingdom of joy, the kingdom of abundance. You must recognize that we all belong to the same kingdom. You simply claim for yourself what you wish the Divine Spirit to do for others. Eternity is always filled with the perfect presence of life. You always have been and always will be the perfect of the eternal mind that is God, the Almighty Spirit. You are a creation of spirit and have received a divine inheritance. Say today, I enter into the limitless variations of self-expression that the Divine Spirit projects into my experience, knowing that all experience is the play of life upon itself, the flowering of love in its self-expression, the coming of good into the joy of its own being. I enter into the play of life with joyful anticipation, with enthusiasm. Today I enter into my divine inheritance and free my thinking from the belief that the adverse external conditions imposed upon me are necessary and cannot be changed. I declare my status as a child of God and the freedom that comes with it, and I drink of the fullness that life offers me. There are rabbits in our minds. We are often amazed and amused by the infinite number of things a magician can pull out of a hat. We may not be very good at pulling live rabbits out of the hat, but we may well be better magicians than we think we are. In fact, any magician would look like an amateur at the things we can pull out of our intellectual hat, and without the need for tricks of any kind. It is all purely real. Let's see what we are capable of. We have an argument with someone, one of those fights that become so heated that they really upset us. We tense up and our hearts race. Suddenly, we discover that we have a knot in our stomach and that our digestion has almost stopped. By now, no doubt, we have already forgotten about the discussion, and we start worrying about the state of our stomach and the possibility of getting an ulcer. We spend so much time worrying about the ulcer that we end up getting a headache. Then come the aches and pains in all the other parts of the body, which of course give us reason to put on an even bigger show. The grand finale comes when we are so exhausted that we can't go to work, and there is not a single part of the body that works well, it seems. For we must become aware of our rare magician's skills. When we become aware of the great capacity we have to cause ourselves problems, perhaps we can be more careful when it comes to using it. It is also worth asking ourselves whether this great creative ability we possess could be used to our benefit rather than just to our detriment. There are many good things to experience in life. Let us learn to concentrate on how to bring them out of the creative power of our thinking, the invisible good. You must begin to understand that although your body is something real and tangible, with a definite form, it is also at the same time something made of living matter, permeated with the life of God, whatever substance your body is made of. Even if we call it material, it must be made of the same essence of which all things are made. That is why it is necessary for you to feel eternity in the very cells and tissues of your body. Say, realizing that the Spirit within me is God, being fully aware that this divine presence is the principle that sustains my life. I open my thoughts to its influx. I open my consciousness to its outpouring, which carries with it all the power of the infinite. I know that today, every day, I silently draw into my experience an ever-increasing amount of vitality, health, joy, and harmony, guided by God. Everything I think, say, and do becomes at once a good work, a productive and improved work. There exists for me beforehand a perfect and invisible scheme. My faith drinks from that source and makes visible what I could not see before. The harmonious action of life now permeates every part of my experience. Everything good that exists now belongs to me. The high price we pay for living, everything we get in this world, has a price, of course. We all know that our money is worth less and less. But we are not talking about this kind of price. We pay for everything a price that can be measured in any currency. The eminent medical researcher Harold Hay Wolff-Marion, after several years of study, summarized this idea clearly and precisely. There are many things more important than material comfort, and even some more important than health. Clinical evidence has shown that mental patterns centered on stress, intense emotions, anxiety, fear, and other physically debilitating attitudes can have a devastating effect on the body. Take, for example, the case of a man who earns a good living, who is subjected to such stress and strain at work that an ulcer faces the choice of changing jobs and losing out on material quality of life, or continuing in his position and sacrificing his health for a better salary. Dr. Wolff states that any man should be able to know what price he is paying for achieving his goals and act in a certain way when he chooses. He may have to pay for it in pain and illness. Instead of sitting back and letting situations, conditions, problems overcome us, could we not develop a state of mind that would enable us to face them and deal with them in an intelligent and emotionally mature way? When we learn to cope with life's problems without sacrificing our goals or comfort, we can be in mass and repechando. The price to pay is to control our thoughts, physical perfection. Your body is the temple of the living spirit. It is a spiritual substance. As the Spirit of God has entered your being, your life is spiritual. The ever-present Supreme Being exists at the very center of your thought. Such a presence within you has the power to make all things new. Say, I know that the perfect life of God dwells in my whole being, in every part of it. As the sun dispels the mist, so my acceptance of life dispels all pain and discord, reshapes and recreates my body according to the divine scheme in the mind of God. So also at this very moment, the living Spirit flows through me. I open wide the doors of my consciousness to receive its influx. I allow my body to receive the flow of the Spirit in each of my acts, of its functions, of its cells, and of its organs. I know that my whole being manifests the life, love, peace, harmony, strength and joy of the Spirit that dwells in me, that is incarnated in me, that is my whole being. I am aware that all the energy and presence that exists envelops me in its eternal embrace, that the Spirit communicates its life to me forever. I know that the Spirit in me is my strength and my energy, the relationship with ourselves. Many of us are familiar with children's tantrums when they can't do what they want or don't get what they want. Sometimes they are quite a spectacle, often very violent. However, they are usually short-lived, and the child soon becomes cheerful again. We believe that these tantrums are just a stage in the growing process and that children will outgrow them when they grow up. But it's true, we have outgrown them. It's true that we can't put on a show for others, but we may unconsciously put on a show for ourselves, causing our body a real disruption. When we have to do something we don't want to do, or when we have to do it at a different pace than we would like, medicine has shown that the body usually has a tantrum in the form of a migraine, and in those cases, tranquilizers can do little or nothing. If we learn to recognize those conditions or those situations in everyday life that may contribute to migraine or any other discomfort, We can deal with them objectively rather than unconsciously reacting with a bodily tantrum. However, instead of being like a child who quickly overcomes his or her problem, we tend not to be fully aware of the nature of our difficulties, and as a consequence, we spend days or even weeks or months upset. Then, in addition to the problem that has come to us from outside, we have an internal problem that complicates the situation. The next time we are faced with a situation that makes us say, "This gives me a headache," we should try to change our reaction. There is more truth in our words than we think. Self-control. You are part of a divine whole, and the words you utter contain all the energy and presence of spirit, and instantly, perfectly and permanently create a whole. Know that you are an individualization of spirit, the source of wholeness, love, reason, and intelligence. Empty yourself of any and all ideas that deny this truth. I know that, silently but effectively, the divine energy of invisible spirit is at work within you here and now. Say, "I take this certainty for granted. I am aware that I am a perfect being living in perfect conditions, and I know that only spirit is real. I also know that only the mind has the power to act or react. Whatever I think, say or do, today I will think, say or do, from the spiritual knowledge that God is in all things." It is enough for me to recognize this energy, to neutralize any false perception, straighten the crooked and smooth the rough. I know with certainty that this knowledge brings harmony to my experience. The art of getting sick. Within us and around us live microorganisms that, as soon as we give them a chance, multiply happily and cause us enormous suffering and great sadness. We live in a state of peaceful coexistence with the microscopic world until then it does a somersault, and like a fall from nowhere, disease descends upon us. There are many factors responsible, but more and more attention is being paid to the work of the individual. Or perhaps we should see it just the other way around. It is not the work itself, but the individual's negative reaction to his or her work, which can become a very sophisticated technique. It seems that our mental and emotional responses to work can cause such radical changes in our bodily functions that our defense mechanisms diminish and leave us at the mercy of the microscopic world around us, and, in other words, we become ill. This is something that happens often, but we are not usually aware of why it happens to us. Of course, one solution is to stop working, but even then, we would always find a way to keep feeling annoyed and upset, which would lead to the same consequences. We cannot escape life, which does not mean that we have to be comfortable with everything we encounter every day at work or in our daily lives. However, we can learn to generate a flexible and well-intentioned posture in the face of everything that comes our way, and try to find a solution to it. A good start in this direction is to sincerely try to find at least one thing about our work that we can like. This way of thinking can become contagious, and before we know it, we will have recovered our defenses. Love life. Life is eternally new. You form a unity with life, and spirit is continually creating in you and through you. There is no darkness, despair, or discouragement in the all-creating mind. But people have sought all kinds of devious ways to deprive themselves of the abundant goods that are available to them. The key to success in life is in your mind and in your thoughts. You are the master of your own destiny. Say, "I have the will to be well, to be happy, and to live joyfully. I affirm that in my experience there is only what represents good health. I can perceive such good. I believe in it. I think about it, and I hope it will continue. Everything I do with joy. Everyone I meet, I embrace with love, being aware that my roots are in the purity of the spirit. I trace my life back to the original source and know that all activity in my body is now in perfect harmony with the one perfect life. I reject and eliminate any ideas to the contrary, instead establishing the total conviction that my body is the temple of the living God. In this moment, I am reborn, renewed and whole, as divine love infiltrates my inner being. God's life is now my life. Learn to deceive yourself. Do not deceive yourself. We often tell others, or they tell us that things are not as we think they are. Many of us find a special pleasure in daydreaming and engage in harboring all sorts of daydreams. Although we may not realize it, many people have developed this type of practice to the point where it has become an art, and an extremely practical art. We often feel depressed physically, mentally, and emotionally. Everything around us seems to be wrong, and we obediently follow suit. This indicates that we allow ourselves to be governed by external circumstances. In reality, it should be the other way around. We have no choice but to navigate the experiences that everyday life throws at us. But we must not forget that we have a life of our own to live, and we must learn to manage it. And this is where we can begin to learn to self-deception. When we feel mentally attacked, let's start thinking about the happy moments we have had or hope to have. If we feel physically sluggish, let's spend some time thinking about how wonderful it is to feel good and try to mentally feel the pleasure of feeling good. As for emotions, when we feel tense, if we force a smile or a laugh, we will soon find ourselves doing it quite naturally and free ourselves from tension. If we continue to do this systematically, we will soon find that we are experiencing those same positive thought patterns that we have worked so hard to create. When we realize that constructive self-deception is in fact a very practical task and is quite an art, then our life will become balanced in a more normal way. Receptivity. It is impossible to receive what your mind refuses to accept. If you want to receive more, you must consciously develop the capacity. If you mentally accept more of yourself, you take away the meaning of your life and shrink its options. On the other hand, if you refuse to accept all the divine good, and instead make yourself more open to the divine and the good things that can happen in your life, life will take on a whole new meaning. Say to yourself, "My thoughts are full of the hope of a fuller life. My thinking grows, and I know that there will come into my experience a greater good than anything I have ever thought of. I believe it without reservation and accept it as such. My body and mind are always open to the flow of everything that makes life vital and joyful. While I let go of all ignorance, doubt and fear, God's action quietly and surely changes everything in my life. As I clear my mind of all ideas that aren't good for me, and focus only on those that bring me health, fulfillment, and happiness, all the riches of God's kingdom fill every moment of my days. There is nothing in the universe that can limit you or would want to limit you. There is nothing hidden from you, because if it were, it would hide itself. This means that you are part of the universe's ultimate purpose. Spirit seeks you out, encourages you, and pushes you towards self-realization. Your gifts will not be finished, no matter how many there are in the universe. Chapter 4. The future is yours. We all daydream about the future, but we don't do much to make it happen. Tomorrow is always that great time that's still to come. You probably let the future take care of itself, while you think about the past and the worries of the present. The future has always taken care of itself, but what you think about now is still your future. The images of your thoughts today are like pictures on a screen. There is no right or wrong. You can change those pictures at any time for ones that you really like. That doesn't mean you daydream or vaguely hope for the best. Your ideas are dynamic energy, but you have to use them in a concrete way for them to really create new experiences. There are times when we limit our thoughts because we give certain words narrow meanings. Harvard astronomer Harlow Shapley talks about this in one of his books, saying that all we know about the world can be summed up in four basic ideas: space, time, matter, and energy. But Shapley asks a very important question. Is it possible to build the universe from these four things, or do we need a fifth factor? The fifth factor he talks about is a mysterious being that most people call God. It's important, as Dr. Shapley says, that we don't limit our understanding of such a big idea by only thinking about our own lives and the small part of the universe we live in. We may never fully understand the nature of that master entity that uses space, time, matter, and energy to intelligently create everything that exists, living and non-living. But that doesn't mean that we should limit our idea of God, because if we do that, we also limit our health or success to what we think is healthy or successful. Thinking seems to have no limits. Our thoughts can go as high as they want, but we often only think up to a certain point and not further. We use our thinking to make walls that we don't dare to cross. Instead, we should use our thinking to build stairs that lead to more freedom and adventure in our lives. Everything in the universe is a unique expression of one thing, which is the cause of everything else. You must be aware that the one creative energy expresses itself in you in a unique way, and that it is always pushing you to give more ways for its infinite possibilities to be used. You don't need to copy or compete with anyone, because you and everyone else are unique creations of God and have full access to the unlimited potential of infinite intelligence. Say this today: I will be myself and try to show the miracle of life in a fuller way. I find more joy in living and more wonder in being. I think simply and directly from the center of my being, which is God, the living Spirit. I enter into the faith of a believer, into the joy of knowing and the act of living, which are announced by the one energy and the one presence that is in everything. Today, I welcome this presence that responds to me in a personal, warm, and colorful way. It gives me energy, helps me see things from different points of view, and fills me with love for life. When I accept my relationship with the infinite, I find a new freedom. My thoughts soar, my experiences grow, and I feel joy that knows no limits. As all studies show, people's interest in religious topics keeps growing. On radio and TV, speakers talk about religion all the time. Sometimes they manage to impress listeners, and other times they just give them something to talk about. It's not often that someone can strongly believe in the value of believing or have absolute faith in the value of faith, without actually believing or having any faith at all. Sincere belief and faith have a very positive effect on people's health as well as their experiences. Some people think that just because someone talks about faith and belief that they are religious. This is not true. It is something superficial and has little or no value. Just because someone says they are religious doesn't mean they actually are. Religion is very personal. It is a way of thinking and believing that shapes our thoughts and actions. It's not a hobby, it's a full-time job. To be religious, we need to understand our relationship with God, with other people, and with the world around us. Our relationship with these things must be based on healthy ideas and feelings. Being religious is more than just donating a coat, having a conversation, or going to social events. It's a way of life that affects everything we do. What matters is not what we say we are, but what we honestly think, believe, and have faith in. Individuality. Life has stamped you with the seal of individuality. You are unique and different from everyone else who has ever lived. You are an individual nucleus in God's consciousness and an individual act in God's action. You are you, and you are eternal. So, don't wait for immortality to come to you. The resurrection of life is happening right now. Start living in the present as an immortal being, and all thoughts of death and fears of change will go away. You will leave the tomb of uncertainty and come out into the light of eternal day. I know that everything that seems to die will actually come back to life, so I die happy with everything except the good of God. In silence, I move from less to more, from being alone to being with others, and from being separate to being one. Today, I know that nothing in my past can hurt me, and nothing in my future can stop my experience from unfolding, so I know that life will be an endless adventure. I enjoy thinking about the endless future, the path of eternal progress, the eternity of my own being, the continuity of my soul, the energy that is renewed every day, and the actions of the divinity inside me, which has set the seal of individualized being in my mind. Multiple examples of how creativity works can be found, from a child building sandcastles to an old man carving a walking stick, from a scientist doing research to someone making a new dish for a dinner party. It seems that being creative is a basic urge that forces us to find constructive ways to express ourselves. If we want to be fully human, we should sometimes look at ourselves and see how much we use this unique virtue. We must make our inner self flow into our experience, and even more so if it is the singular expression of the creative capacity of the mind within us. Those who are able to do so are the ones who contribute the most to life, the advancement of civilization, and the creation of the happiest homes. To live a life that does the most good for us and others, we need to fully express who we are. Being able to think creatively and imaginatively is important for reaching our full potential. If we explore the resources we hold in our minds, we will be amazed at the endless possibilities that lie within. Thinking is the best gift that life has given us, so why not start making better use of it? You must believe in the ability and desire of this great source to sustain its own creation. God's kingdom, power and glory are expressed through you. Say, there can't be any limits or shortages in my life because the one perfect activity flows freely through me and frees me from any sense of being tied down. All power comes to me from above, and this knowledge makes me strong with the force of universal energy that gives everything life. I am sustained and inspired by a divine current of energy, spirit, which flows through me as enthusiasm and vital ideas, and every part of my mind responds to this flow. I was born with creativity and inspiration, and now I'm expressing them in the best way possible. A new horizon. It's amazing how resistant our minds are to new ideas. Too often, our thinking is frozen in routine, and we put up walls that stop us from giving any kind of thought, no matter how small, to what we don't know yet. In a letter to a hospital in Brazil, a doctor talks about how he was browsing through an old bookstore and came across some American magazines with many articles about the power of affirmative sentences. He laughed at the idea and put the magazines on a shelf. Many months later, he was going through a lot of hard personal problems that didn't seem like they could be solved. He felt hopeless and decided to read the articles again, even though he wasn't sure if they would work. He was shocked by the results and said, "It works, it works." The resource. If you surrender your whole being to the divine spirit, knowing that with your own human essence you can do nothing, you get rid of that essence. Believe that the spirit inside you is strong and present. Accept its power and let it guide you. Know that when you say, "There is only one life, that life is God, that life is now my life," you are talking about this core of divine certainty within you. Say, "I know that at the core of my being dwells the presence of perfection. I feel the divine life flowing within me, animating every atom of my being, and I feel that all others are of the same nature as I am. We all live, move, and receive our being from God. I now affirm with full acceptance that the intelligence that made everything guides me toward the attainment of every good and valuable end. Such a presence exists at the very core of my being and flows through me, bringing happiness, joy, abundance, harmonious living, and the constructive use of my mind's creative power. I am now open to new ideas, hopes, and aspirations. Modern slavery. A certainly disconcerting report stated that 1 in 10 people in Western countries is neurotic and needs help. For years, we have devoted all our efforts to trying to build ourselves a new and wonderful world to live in. Today, however, things do not seem to be going so well. Instead of mastering the situation, we seem to have become slaves to the society and culture we have created. We find that, in many respects, we are no longer able to keep up with them or meet the demands they place on us. As things stand, we will have to learn to solve and problem, or perhaps 9 out of 10 of us will soon succumb to the terrible consequences of trying to live in the world we have created for ourselves. It seems that there are 2 options. We can slow down the fantastic rate of growth of our culture, or we can discover a way to grow that gives us back the mastery of our lives instead of existing as automatons and slaves of a system from which we are trying to escape. By walking away from life collectively, we can rebuild our society, but individually, we alone are responsible for how we develop mentally to cope with the pressures of everyday life. That is something no one else can do for us. A fundamental starting point is to have a concrete program for developing greater mental and emotional maturity. However, we must be aware that any degree of maturity we wish to achieve is only possible if we first set out to grow spiritually. It may not be an easy task, but the possibility of regaining our lost freedom depends on it. Live with joy. You must awaken to a new joy in life, despite all the fears, doubts, or uncertainties you may have harbored in the past. You must realize that today you are starting over. Your world can be built anew from this moment on. You must have the purpose to be well, to be happy, and to live with joy. Recognize that there is nothing in your past that can deny you the privilege of living happily, and that there is nothing in your future that can bring you anything but joy. Learn to find in your daily experience only what is inspired by good. When you discover the good things that present themselves to you each day, and believe in them and think about them, you can only hope that they will continue to present themselves. As I become aware that my roots are rooted in pure spirit, I trace my life back to its original source and discover that every activity of my mind and body is in alignment with the one perfect life. It is this life that circulates in me, eliminating everything that does not belong to it. It now makes any act of assimilation, circulation, or elimination that my body performs perfect. I have the purpose to live fully and joyfully, and I am at peace with the world around me. It is my desire to live and let live, to give and forgive, and to see in every person I meet the divine likeness. Abandoning at this moment all sense of depression or limitation, I am lifted to a new joy of living by the giver of all life. My heart sings a hymn of happiness and freedom. Do not be content. If there is one thing most of us strive endlessly for, it is to reach a state of contentment where all is well, our problems disappear, and life becomes a joyful existence. At that point, we would have reached what we might call peace of mind. But it is possible to reach that state of contentment. It is inner peace, a state as desirable as it seems. As much as we like to believe that we are moving toward that end, what would we do when we had finally reached it? The happiest person in the world may be the one who has fulfilled his or her life's ambition and climbed the highest mountain, but at that point, that person would become the saddest because there would no longer be any higher mountains to climb. Perhaps we should revise our ideas about what contentment and peace of mind mean and find other definitions. These can only be understood as something we actively experience and never as a plateau on which to rest. There is a divine dissatisfaction in us. It drives us toward new goals, and it is in the process of reaching those goals and not in the goals themselves, that we find satisfaction and peace of mind. You must recognize that divine dissatisfaction in you. It is the creative impulse that, over the centuries, has propelled people to greater achievements. Deny it, and you are denying your humanity. The divine presence constitutes your very essence and carries within it the possibility of all the joy of living. We must not harbor any ideas that limit your experience of the good life. There is nothing in you that can separate you from the divine presence. Though in many different ways you may obstruct the flow of it within you, those who accept it have a greater opportunity to know the love of God, a greater joy of life, and a greater good in their lives. I affirm that the Spirit within me will always guide me along the path of happy living, will always direct my thoughts, my words, and my deeds into the constructive channels of self-expression. It will always unite me with others in love, respect, and consideration. I live, I move in the infinite ocean of perfect life, in the divine presence from which I cannot separate myself, and I take my being from it. I accept the divine presence as the greatest reality. I know that the kingdom of God is within me. I trust absolutely that the law of mind will make my best desires manifest in my experience. Everything I need to be happy is already fixed in the divine mind and is already an established fact. You are responsible. Everything seems to indicate that we have to carry an ever-increasing number of responsibilities. Sometimes they seem so steep, and we dislike them so much that we do anything to avoid them. The funny thing is that avoiding responsibilities often costs us more effort and more thought than we would have to devote to fulfilling them. Trying to escape our responsibilities can have worse repercussions than facing them. By trying to run away from external responsibilities, we may overlook the great responsibility we have to ourselves, that of maintaining our health. By shirking our obligations, we seem to invite physical complications. We tend to escape some situations by using tranquilizers. The sedative effect of the tranquilizer may alleviate problems, but it does not cure them. The cure requires a mental discipline that allows us to adapt to the life we lead, that enables us to develop a broader point of view, to better control our thought patterns. We must mature to be able to do what needs to be done and overcome the tendency to do only what we like and when we feel like it. We will always carry some responsibility of one kind or another, so it is not a matter of getting rid of them. Rather, we must fulfill them. Life would be empty without responsibilities, and the greatest of all is the one we have towards ourselves, that of expressing the life within us, satisfying the need it has to expand, and at the same time allowing us to fulfill the obligations that fall upon us. It is at this moment that we begin to grow. Satisfaction, when you learn to get rid of all the burdens and leave them in the hands of God's action, you will notice that everything takes its rightful place. Let the problems go away from you and realize that there is an energy stronger than you and a presence that dwells within you that is ready and willing to guide you in any direction. At that moment, peace, security, and contentment will come to you, and you will experience the joy of having done well. I say in these moments, I free myself from any idea of fear, doubt, or uncertainty, knowing that the infinite intelligence of the Spirit within me knows what to do and how to do it, and does it without difficulty. That intelligence guides all my thoughts and actions. Everything I do will bring me joy and prosperity. Every encounter with others will be a blessing to all. The good deeds that manifest in my experience are also good for others. In loving, I know that I am loved. In giving, I know that life will give back to me. In returning to the divinity that dwells within me, I invite God's presence to manifest through me and bring happiness to my life and the lives of those around me. I rest in my faith and in my quiet hope, and I know that in every situation in which I find myself, only happiness and joy will reign. a profitable way to have fun, we claim more and more pay for less and less work time. That extra money allows us to get more of the things we consider to make our lives easier, more enjoyable. But what do we do with the extra time we have? Probably relax, to the benefit of both mind and body, but there is a limit to the amount of play that is beneficial. If we have too much of anything, we feel oversaturated. So what do? We seem to have a natural need to set goals, to experience some mental and emotional satisfaction every time we achieve something worthwhile. And this is not achieved by playing aimlessly or killing time absent-mindedly. Something more is needed. We must consciously learn how to use our free time. It does not have to be an excessively serious, laborious or time-consuming activity. It must be something we enjoy doing, but at the same time, it must allow us to achieve some result that brings out the best in us, regardless of our age, whether we are in our 20s or our 80s. The goal is the same, even if the type of activity changes. We must not forget that it is more fun to create something than to own it. We must learn to squeeze every last minute of our free time for more creative and constructive achievements. Great possibilities are always within your reach. There is at the core of your being a divine force and infinite wisdom waiting to be unleashed, which will allow you to bring greater good into your life and get more out of it. There is a creativity that knows no limits and that expresses itself in all things. Constantly seek within yourself a better channel of expression, recognize its existence, and accept its influence in your life. I say, I now raise my whole mind to the influx of divine power and infinite wisdom. I know that I am silently associated with God today, tomorrow, and forever. I accept the creative action that the Spirit performs in me, as well as its guidance. I know that new doors open to me, that new opportunities to express myself are presented to me, that new ideas come to my mind, that I find myself in new situations. I hope to fulfill them and achieve new accomplishments. Divine intelligence flows through me, inspires me, and leads me to more worthy ends and more creative tasks. God guides me in all His ways, and new horizons are constantly opening before me. I accept the fullness of life at this very moment. Who is confused? When we feel confused, we tend to think it is the fault of others and never ourselves. Similarly, when relationships get complicated, we always blame the other person. What parent is there who doesn't think their teenager is the most confused person in the world? Research has taught us that young people cause less confusion than they suffer from, and that many of their problems stem from their parents' own anxieties and insecurities. In the attitude and behavior of children, parents see their own anxieties reflected. We find the same reaction in every home, in every office, or in any group of people. One person burdened with worries and anxieties can contaminate the ideas of a whole group of people. When we are surrounded by unpleasant people, whether they are our children, our relatives, or our co-workers, before we complain too much about them, perhaps it would be a good idea to examine ourselves. Chances are that they are merely reflecting our own state of mind. The only way to make our relationships the way we want them to be is to remember that they are nothing more than a reflection of who we are. If we want to have good relationships, we must think in advance that the relationships are going to be good. Although it may seem otherwise, only then will good relationships be returned by experience. Regardless of how a person looks and acts, we cannot change our opinion of them unless we change what we think of them. Harmony. You live in God's house just like everyone else. God's house is full of beings of divine origin who will be as divine as you let them be. When you look at them, they will look back at you. Because that is life, they will all respond to you according to your recognition. In the house of God, there is no jealousy, no malice, no meanness. It is a joyful house, a place of happiness and contentment. It is a warm, beautiful and colorful place. In light of this, your experiences on earth and your relationships are largely what you have made of them. By not letting God take care of everything, I say, I know that in the house of experience in which I live, God is the host, and people are his guests. His invitation is eternally written for all of us to enter and remain there as guests in his eternal home. Joy, wholeness, and friends. I fully accept the divine obligation to express only love and appreciation to everyone I meet, knowing that only what I think, say, and do will be returned to me. I allow divine love to act through me in all my affairs. Henceforth, there will be only harmonious, happy, and mutually beneficial relationships in my life. I rejoice in the divine harmony that surrounds me. Cooperation. The well-known founder of analytical psychology, Dr. Carl G. Jung, in one of his essays stated, "I am concerned only with the destiny of the human being, that infinitesimal unity on which the world depends, and in which, if we interpret the Christian message correctly, even God seeks his end." This interesting observation seems to place a considerable responsibility on our shoulders, a responsibility we did not ask for, but which could be considered the very reason we are here. If we think about it, the first thing that distinguishes us from all other living things is the ability to think. We are using this unique ability to merrily go on our way. We are using it in a way that reflects the nature of that power greater than ourselves that created it. The physicist and Nobel laureate Robert A. Millikan wrote in his autobiography that the architect of the universe has brought us here and endowed us with the mind, and now it is up to us to use it. All the intelligence and creativity of the universe flows through us, and to the extent that we cooperate with them, we are co-creators of our world. We have probably never stopped to think about this, but it is an idea of great importance to all of us. We can cooperate with life or fight against it, help it or obstruct its flow through us. If we cooperate with life and express its nature, we receive an influx of wisdom and an impulse toward right action. How often do we cooperate? Rarely, only sometimes, or almost always it seems that for practical reasons, our ideas and our actions must conform to the highest concept we have of the God who created us. Oneness. You live because life lives in you. You move because universal energy flows through you. You think because infinite intelligence is thinking through you. And you exist because the divine spirit has sought to become individual in you. This is why you have been referred to as the temple of the living God. You can say it now. I know that I was born divine and that I connect with God in joy, love, and peace. I know that I live, act, and receive my being in the life of spirit. God wants to express himself through me in a different way than through other people. I now take responsibility for being who I really am and doing what life asks of me. There is a place in my mind that merges with God's mind, and I now get all of my strength and inspiration from that place. The light of God's presence surrounds me. Because I know I am one with God, everything in my life is positive. I believe in living a holy and successful life, and I become joyful like God.